Angela from the website naturallivingalchemy.ca. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how you can make your own digestive bitter tincture to assist you with your gut health and your digestion. One thing that is becoming more and more apparent, at least in my opinion, is the needing to address our gut health. So many of our bodily functions, such as immunity and our overall general mood and well-being, begins in the gut. And the best thing that I ever added into my gut health regimen is a digestive bitter tincture. I'm going to be sharing with you some information regarding digestive bitters and why I've chosen these particular herbs to work with in our formulation today. And then I'm just going to show you how easily it all comes together. But before we get into that part of the video, I just need to go over my disclaimer. I am not a doctor. None of what is on this channel is considered medical advice. It is for entertainment and educational purposes only. You need to talk to your own healthcare practitioner before following any of my advice. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the digestion pathway. And it all begins with a taste. And that taste is the bitter taste. And we have spent so much time as a society, at least this is what I've noticed, trying to avoid some of these stronger flavors. But this bitter taste actually plays a really, really, really big role in the act of digestion itself. So I'm going to give you the pathway here. So you taste something bitter. Next, what happens is your vagus nerve is stimulated and your secretions begin to increase. So these increased secretions are going to bring you into an increased parasympathetic or rest and digest response. Digestion does not happen if we are stuck in a sympathetic or fight or flight branch of our nervous system. So then with these secretions, there's a release of gastrin, which is the hormone that governs the majority of the digestion system responses. And then after all that, we get an increase of the digestive secretions. So this pathway sends a signal to the digestive system, okay? And it's these digestive bitters that help prepare the body for the act of digestion. And they are best taken about 10 to 15 minutes before you're going to eat your meal. So who would use a digestive bitter? Because it is not for everybody. We're not jars with labels, as my teacher lovingly always reminds us. We are each individual, right? So something that's going to work for me might not work for you. And something that works well for you constitutionally might throw my body and my system completely out of whack. So some things that you're going to want to look out for if you want to know if these are something that you need to add into your regimen is if you have low digestion. And one way you could tell if you have low digestion would be checking for gas, for bloating, if you're belching a lot after you're eating, if you're noticing some stomach distension and bloating, right, like I said, or a low appetite, or if you're noticing that you're just having a low bile production. And if you're having a low bile production within your body, what that means is your body is actually not being able to digest fats and oils as appropriately as it needs to. We have been told that fat's the enemy, that it's bad, that we need to avoid it at all costs like the plague. Have you also noticed how sick we are as a society? These low fat diets are not healthy. Okay, your body requires a certain amount of fat and a healthy fat and certain amounts of healthy oils to actually have all of its functions work to its optimal condition. So, how do you know if you have low bile? Okay, really, really easy to check. You're going to have to check your stool. Okay, listen, everybody poops. I think there was even a book written about that. This is just a normal part of life. It is a normal part of having a body. So what you're going to have to do to see if you have low bile production is notice if your stool is more of a, we're going to say more of a yellow color as opposed to brown, or even like a whitish, okay, that is going to be low bile. Also, if you're noticing that it is floating, or even if there is, after you go and evacuate your bowels, you notice that there's a little bit of like an oily film kind of on the top of the bowl. Yeah, you're not absorbing oil, you're not digesting oils or fat properly. And this is because you have low bile. Okay. So, another thing though that's really interesting is if you are experiencing some constipation, bitters are going to help you because they are going to help increase your bile secretions, right? Which is in turn going to help you go more regularly. So, if that's who should take bitters, who should avoid them? Okay. So, there's a couple of signs that you would need to look out for that would show you if you need to avoid bitters or not. And the main one is if you have excessive heat already in your gastrointestinal tract. This would be ulcers, acid reflux, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, or increased inflammation within the GI. If you have any of those things, you're going to want to go into a whole other herbal category that would be referred to as demulcent. Let's think energetically for a moment. The bitter taste, that is moving energy down. Okay. It is draining your fluids. So if you are somebody who is already quite constitutionally cold, think, do you always have cold hands and feet? Okay. Might be a sign that you have just a cold constitution. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just how you're built. Okay. Or if you notice a lot of dryness. So think dry skin, dry eyes, dry hair. Those would all be signs of dryness within the body. And if you're finding those, you would want to avoid bitters because bitters are going to, right, increase secretions, but these secretions are going to eventually be leaving the body. So you would have the possibility of making yourself constitutionally even colder and having a net drying effect, which is something that we don't want to have. Okay. So if you notice any of those things, we're going to try something else. Digestive bitters might not be for you. As we usually do, I'm going to go over some information regarding these herbs, particularly the primary actions of concern as to why they are going in our formulation. And just keep in mind, these are just the primary ones that we're concerned with in this formulation. This is not all that these plants can do. Okay. So the first one that I want to talk about is blessed thistle. So the action that blessed thistle is going to do within your body is it is a bitter tonic, okay? And it is a cholagogue. And that means that it stimulates bile production. It is also inflammation modulating. So that means, well, it's not going to turn off the inflammation response. That is something you do not want to turn off within your body. It's going to do what it can to help your body get back in a state of homeostasis without turning off the inflammation response. Okay, the taste for this, bitter. I tried making a blessed thistle tea just to have, instead of making it into a tincture, I figured, why not just have it as a tea before I eat? Let's try that out. Holy buckets, I could not even drink it. It was that bitter. All right. Like I had like one sip and that was more than enough. I gave it to my partner because he can usually handle stronger flavors than what I can. And even he figured it was too bitter. Okay. So that's why we're going to be adding some other things to it. But blessed thistle has an affinity for your liver and your digestive system. Energetically, it is cooling and drying. Now, there are some contraindications with actually each of these herbs that I've chosen, which is why I told you we need to talk to a pharmacist. If you are on any anticoagulant or antiplatelet drugs, or any type of drugs, supplements, medications that are metabolized by the liver, you're going to want to avoid this, at least for the duration that you are on those medications, because we do not want to stress our liver out. Our next ingredient is dandelion. And don't worry, I'm going to be sharing with you the ratios that you need to be using for this tincture when I share the recipe in just a few moments when I'm done talking about these ingredients. So the taste for dandelion is also bitter. its actions is it also works as a bitter tonic and a cholagogue. It has an affinity for your liver, your gallbladder, your bile ducts, and all on the bile, okay, as well as your whole digestive system. Energetically, it is cooling and can provide a net drying effect if you stay on it for too long, if you have the colder constitution, but it will help open up and loosen stagnation within the tissues, while simultaneously, it's actually quite nutritive and restorative. And I would definitely, the contraindication for this would be if you are on any antibiotics, because you run the risk of the antibiotic not being absorbed as efficiently as your body might be requiring if you find yourself on an antibiotic. Its ruling planet is Jupiter, and its ruling element is water. So those are the two main parts of what our formula is, but we're going to need to balance it out. So we have some pretty strong bitter flavors. So we're going to be adding some carminatives, which are going to help with gas and bloating, as well as something that is called a harmonizer. All right. So carminatives, let's talk about those really briefly. You are already probably quite familiar with them already because most of our carminative herbs and plants are used as spices. So remember, a carminative is just something that helps dispel gas, wind, and bloating within the body. Its action is, okay, so bitter is moving down, energy moving down and essentially out. Instead of carminatives, we are going energy moving up and out. Okay? There's something to keep in mind with the different just directions that these flavors take within our body. All right, our first carminative is fennel seed. So fennel seed has a taste that is pungent and it is very aromatic. Like, oh, this smells good. Okay. At least that's what I think, kind of like a licorice. But anyway, the action that fennel would do within your body is it works as a carminative, right? Dispelling that extra gas, the wind in the body. And it is also a spasmolytic. So that means it is going to help with any tension and spasm, especially in any of your parts of your digestive system. Okay. And it is also inflammation modulating. Okay. So it has an affinity, again, for the digestive system and the liver. Energetically, it is moistening, it is warming, and it is relaxing. Now, the contradiction with fennel seed is I would not use it on anybody who is pregnant because it has an emmenagogue effect, which means it has the capacity to bring on menses. So obviously something you would want to avoid if you're pregnant. So just keep that in mind. The ruling planet of fennel is Mercury, and its ruling element is the air. Our next carminative that I want to talk about is ginger. So ginger has a pungent taste. Its action is carminative and spasmolytic. It has an affinity for the whole digestive system. Energetically, it is warming, drying, and relaxing. Okay. And again, there are quite a few of different drug interactions that might be possible. So again, you're just going to want to talk to anybody, make sure that ginger is going to be something that is going to be helpful for you to add. Its ruling planet is the sun, and its ruling element is the earth. And lastly, our last thing that we want to talk about is licorice root. And we are using this as our harmonizer. So what that means is we've got some pretty strong flavors going on with our first four ingredients. This, because it has a sweet taste, is going to tone some of this down, but not enough that it's going to stop it from doing the actions in the body that we're looking for. I'll tell you why in a second. So this has a sweet taste. Its action is it works as a demulcent. So that means it's providing a soothing or cooling and moistening effect. I just explain that in a second. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. It is also has an action of helping detoxify your liver. Okay. And it's also inflammation modulating. It has an affinity for the digestive system, which is why I've chosen it for this one. So energetically, it is sweet and neutral, kind of more leaning to cool, but mainly it's moistening. So some contraindications with licorice root would be if you are taking steroid drugs or if you have a high blood pressure, whether it is medicated or not. Okay, if you have a high blood pressure, avoid this, please. And you're also going to want to avoid licorice in instances of like edema or hyperglycemia or even osteoporosis. The ruling planet is Venus and the ruling element is Mercury. That's our ingredients. That's everything that we're going to be using in our digestive bitter formula today. And here is our formulation. So we are going to be using 30% less thistle. Keeping in mind, less thistle is cooling and it's drying. Okay. We're going to be using 30% dandelion root, remembering that dandelion is cooling and drying. We're going to be using 20% fennel seed. Remember that that is warming and relaxing. We're going to have 10% ginger, and that is warming and relaxing as well. And then we're going to be using 10% licorice root, and that is neutral and moistening. But something that's just really interesting to know. So, blessed thistle is ruled by Mars, right? We just talked about that a second ago. Licorice root is ruled by Venus. What a Venus ruled drug or plant herb will do is help balance out an excess of Mars. Okay. So it's really going to help out our flavor for sure. And put that over there. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. He thinks I should finish this up so we could go do something fun. And we'll probably do just that. So when I say 30%, like, okay, what does that actually mean? I'm going to use 10% as 1 tablespoon. Okay. So we'll just start mixing it like that. Now, I did before I started recording this today, I just went and I kind of ground up all of these herbs. And if we're actually being completely honest, this ginger is just out of my spice cupboard. So is the fennel seeds actually. But anyway, just use what you have, how you have it. I'm not asking you or expecting anybody to go out and spend a whole bunch of money on herbs and that you could be using. You really could just be checking out your spice cupboard. So we like to make things practical around here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a jar and like I said, we're just going to start putting it in these ratios. So do 2. And we want to do 30% dandelion. Okay, and then I have 20% fennel seeds. We're gonna put in our 10% of ginger, and then our 10% of licorice root. Be sure to check out the description box below. I have a full written blog article to accompany this that has kind of again just all of this written down on a nice recipe card, as well as in that description box you're going to find links to get some of these ingredients for yourself. So once you have everything in your jar, you're going to take and you want to go 2 finger widths above where your herbs are ending. Okay. And I just have some vodka here. And I'm just going to put all right. So you just want to make sure that I like to kind of use my spoon, especially when I have um, so many different herbs in here and one is really, really a powder. I just like to stir it up and make sure that everything is actually um, covered with the vodka. So That looks pretty good to me. So what we're going to do next is you want to actually take a piece of wax paper. But first, we are going to write down what we've made. So this are digestive bitters. And we are going to write what the date is today. Perfect. All right. So now that we have everything is nicely covered with our vodka, our herbs are sitting in here macerating quite nicely, we are going to take a piece of wax paper. And the reason that you're using this is you don't actually, I wasn't doing this for the longest time until I realized I probably could be. So sometimes with the vodka in here, you can actually start corroding your lid. We don't want any of this to break down and actually fall into our tincture. So a really good way to prevent that from happening is just a piece of wax paper. And then you put your lid on it over top. So it just kind of looks something like this. And what you're going to do next is on here, you're going to have what it is and the date. And then every day for the next 6 weeks, you are going to just go and just shake this up and make sure that everything is nicely mixed. Once your 6 weeks are done and you've remembered to shake it every day, if you don't remember, it's still going to be fine. I've made formulas where I just forgot to shake it and it still worked out. But just going it and just kind of just giving it just a little shake like that every day is just going to make sure that everything is infusing nicely into your vodka. You're getting those constituents out of the plants that are going to be helping your digestive system. Now, if you've never made a tincture before, I do have a video that I'm going to link that you can go and check out because I don't actually have one now to show you. Just want to make sure that my instructions make sense. So what you'll do after your 6 weeks is you're going to take, I just have like this little mesh strainer that I like to use. I line it with cheesecloth. I like to put it over a measuring cup or whatever you use to catch the liquid. And you're just going to pour all of this through here. And after it is nicely strained out, you can go and compost your herbs. All right. Can't really do much else with them at this point with this type of tincture making. There are other ways that you can actually incorporate your plant material into your finished product, but we will talk about all those at a different time. Today, for this one, we just want to strain this and we're going to recycle our herbs. You're going to then just put it in a nice amber bottle. I like these little funnels to do that. And I find that when you're using these small funnels, if you kind of just lift this up as you're pouring it, it goes in a little bit easier for whatever reason. Probably something physics that I don't need to understand, just to know that it still works. Our dosage for this, all right, is we want to take 1 dropper full 10 to 15 minutes before our meal. Now, ways you can take your dropper full of digestive bitter. You put it directly in your mouth, under your tongue, okay? Let your body absorb it that way. If you find that that's a little bit too strong, okay, because we want you to take the formulation still. If you find that just straight in your mouth, that's still too strong, take just a little bit of warm water, okay? Maybe fill like in a glass an inch or two, that's it, of water, and then just put your dropper full in there and then just drink that 10 to 15 minutes before your meal. That is how simple it is to make your own digestive bitter formula. Comment down below and let me know, what do you like to do for your gut health? What are some things that you've added into your protocols? I'd love to hear about them. Don't forget to like this video if you wouldn't mind, and maybe share it with somebody who you feel might enjoy or benefit learning how to make their own digestive bitters. And consider subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss future videos that I have planned on bringing you. And I would really like to thank you for spending this time with me together. and may you find peace wherever you are.